Hoping that everybody can hear me and see my screen. There is a little chat box if you need to in the GoToWebinar dashboard. So go ahead and feel free to type any questions or let me know if you can't hear something. My name is Lily Rivas, and I am a customer success specialist at Let's Go Learn. I'll give you a little bit of background about myself before actually beginning. Before I started at Let's Go Learn, I was a classroom teacher for 16 years, and I spent them primarily in the bilingual dual language arena. I specialized in second language acquisition. I taught literacy, I taught math, science. I was working in an inner city school district, and I became really familiar with all of the challenges of an inner city school district, like poverty and students that lacked exposure to a formal education. We had lack of funding, lack of resources. So, I'm really familiar with what goes on in these more challenging districts. But, first and foremost, I'm familiar with what happens in the everyday classroom, with trying to catch up students in their reading and math skills. So while I was still in the classroom, we adopted Let's Go Learn's Dora and Dora Spanish assessments, and then later on we adopted Adam. So I have about 6 years experience with using our assessments in the classroom. So my goal today is to help you gain a little bit deeper insight as to how our reports can help you at your site as an administrator. So again, everybody's muted, so if there is a chat box if you want to ask any questions or if you want to make any comments or anything, feel free to type into those boxes. So our first slide is a brief overview of our agenda. I want to reflect on assessment. I want to get into a brief Let's Go Learn program overview. We'll review some important items in the admin site, and we will hop into our system to take a look at some key reports and talk about some data best practices. So as administrators, as teachers, when you're in the current education field, things happen really quickly. We're really lost in that shuffle sometimes. The momentum is so quick. You have fire drills in the middle of the day, or you have assemblies that you have to do, or things that are demanded very last minute. So in that momentum, it's often very easy to lose focus on what we're really there for. So if you can just take a moment to ask yourself some of these questions, why, reflecting on assessments that are currently being used in your classrooms, at your site, at the district level. Why are these assessments being given? And how, once the assessments are given, what information will be used? When you're thinking about data, it's really important to establish a purpose. It's important to ask yourself what information you're looking to find, whether it's for yourself, the district, for the state, etc. But always keeping in the back of your mind, though, that where data interpretation is most informative and influential is at your current site level. So when you're planning a site level assessment, it's important that you and your staff members are also on the same page. It's important for them to understand as well as for you to understand and to establish that purpose. Why do they need to give that assessment? What are they looking to find? What information do they need to know before they're assessing? So another step in planning for assessment is, once you give the assessment, how will you use that data? So what will you plan on doing once the assessments have been completed? How will you use it? What changes will you need to make within your school to better meet the needs of your students based on the results? In this particular case at Let's Go Learn, we're talking about Dora, Adam, pre-algebra DOMA, and algebra DOMA. So it's really important that you ask yourself these set of questions for every one of our assessments that you're administering, since each one is measuring a completely different set of skills. Which brings us to the AI cycle. This is the foundation of all of our assessments at Let's Go Learn. You have A on the left-hand side, meaning assessment, and I, meaning instruction. On the top left of assessment, we have accountability assessment, which is where your benchmarks and your state assessments fall. It's a one-size-fits-all assessment given to everybody at a particular grade level. On the bottom left, though, we have diagnostic assessments, which is where all of our assessments lie at Let's Go Learn. And just notice how the standards live outside the AI cycle. Understanding students and their academic differences is understanding that there are unique gaps in their learning and that those holes must be filled as they're achieving those grade level standards, or even before they can actually get to those grade level standards. Those standards are ever changing, so they live on the outside. We know they're there, but we know that we have to fill in the gaps first. So what is unique about us? Well, because we fall under the diagnostic part of assessment, we're able to inform educators as to why a student is performing the way he is performing. We're able to identify areas of strengths and weaknesses, and we're able to give teachers or administrators the next teaching points for those students in multiple areas at a time. Accountability assessments like your benchmark or your state tests, they're really only capable of telling you if a student is at, on, or below grade level, leaving teachers with questions on what exactly to do next with that student. You know, I remember being in the classroom and having a child fail a benchmark test. And, you're like, okay, well, that's really great. I know he's not really working up to grade level, but how far below is he? Knowing how additive learning is, I really want to know, is he missing decoding skills if we're talking about, reading, or is he missing, very basic subtraction skills if we're talking about math? You really want to know how far back, he's missing those skills. So this slide shows a sample of what an accountability test looks like. It could be any benchmark, beginning of the year test, or end of the year test, quarterly, etc. So it's a one-size-fits-all assessment that measures only some skills in the area of reading. So teachers are left wondering what exactly to do with that information. Yes or above, or yes or below, but we don't really know how much above, how much below, and what exactly those targeted, those gaps are. On the other hand, we have a Let's Go Learn reading assessment slide, which measures across all of the subskills. And because it is an adaptive assessment that covers skills in grades kindergarten through 12th grade, you're much better able to gauge how a student is doing in each skill. You'll see where they fall, at grade level in some skills, maybe above level in others, and even below in others. So it's a much more accurate picture, or much more likely picture of what you will expect of a student. Nobody's really a flat line across the board. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. So, just a recap of the assessments that we do have available on our platform. We offer Dora, which is our K-12 diagnostic online reading assessment. We offer the equivalent to that in Spanish, which is Dora Spanish. We offer a Dora Phonemic Awareness Assessment offered from pre-K to 2nd grade. We also have ADAM, which is our math assessment, a diagnostic math in both English and Spanish. That's a K to 7 assessment. And then we have subject-specific assessments for pre-algebra and algebra. So it's DOMA pre-algebra and DOMA algebra. I'm going to go ahead and hop into our system to teach you how to navigate our reports and to talk about how some of these reports have been used by educators at some of our best school districts. So once you get into your Let's Go Learn page, www.letsgolearn.com, you can choose to log in as a teacher or parent, really, or administrator, but this would be your login. So you go ahead and click on that. You put in your info. I'm going to hop into a demo account, which is a little bit different. It's got it's real data, but it's a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. When you log in, you'll notice that we are organized in a series of tabs at the top of the page. So you have your home tab, you have your site admin tab, and you have your reporting tab. I'm just going to point out a few things on this particular page, because if you're anything as busy as I was when I was in school, in the classroom, you really just tend to skip to this page and just hop straight to business and either site admin or reporting. So, just to know that these things are here and to point out to your staff members that they are here. So under helpful links, you have your teacher getting started. If, when you click on here, if you have any new staff members or new to Let's Go Learn, you can point them in this direction. It gives you some great handouts and videos. Our Professional Development Center is a great place to come to either get a refresher video. They're a little bit longer videos, but you have your getting started videos, navigating reports as a teacher, interpreting data as a teacher, and then your administrative webinars also, along with Edge. So make sure that you realize that that's there. If there's anything else that we can add there and you have any ideas, we always welcome suggestions. So then also on the helpful links, we have virtual support tours. These are just very short how-to videos. If you forget how to do something, it's probably in that library, so make sure you can check there first. And also here we have a place where you can request support. So we have that 800 number, which you can always call, or the help@letsgolearn.com email. You can always reach out that way. But this request support button actually tags you as who you are and what site, where you're located. So it just helps us determine, how to better meet your needs, basically. So this is a great place to go to request any help or if you have any questions. And then I'll just point out on the teacher toolkit, not too much more, but you do have a great series of tip sheets here, like quick 1 or 2 page sheets on how to do something within our system if you're that person who really needs to print out a how-to sheet as opposed to watching a video and virtual support tours. And then in the middle of the page, we have all of these LGL announcements. Usually if there's something going on, we'll let you know that something's going on within our system in this area. There's also a demo for Edge 2.0, which is our instructional component. It's excellent. And then we also have here, which is maybe how you came about this webinar, we have a webinar training schedule here. So if you know that you want to sign up for a live webinar similar to the one that we're conducting today, this is where you go for that. So just some great information to point out to your teachers if they're having any kind of, they need a refresher or they just need to learn how to do something. So I'm going to go back up to the dashboard, and the next tab is the Site Admin tab. I'm going to just click on that. I'm not going to get too in-depth of this. I'm really just going to give you a quick overview because we do have a separate Admin Getting Started webinar that's offered. So just within the Site Admin, this is where you go to manage your teachers, and you can actually manage their students as well. And also where you go to give permissions or to add users if they're new to your site. So again, if you need a little bit more guidance with that, feel free to email us, or we can point in the right direction of the correct video for that. So what we really want to focus on today is the reporting tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on reporting. And I want to point out the fact that when you do click on reporting, if you haven't noticed already, it gives you 2 options. It gives you either the option to go into your site data or the data portal. So I'm going to go ahead and click on site. I'll explain both pretty thoroughly, but I'm going to go ahead and click on site. So under your site reporting tab, you really only have access to 2 reports here. You have your site assessment completion report and your assessment completion export. So 2 vocabulary terms that we're going to coin here, so you have a little bit clearer of an understanding as to what we're doing. You have anything that's a report that we consider a report is a little bit more colorful. Anything that's an export is is more of an Excel spreadsheet. So I guess you guys might be seeing something blurry. What looks clear to me may not be what you're seeing. I apologize about that. Or maybe it's just one of my, I have, I'll introduce you. I didn't realize that they were on, but I do have Aaron Delgadillo, who's our customer success specialist on this webinar. And I have Alicia Atkinson, who's another customer success specialist like myself, and Onawa Biela, who's another customer success specialist like myself also. So just, they're here to field questions, so let me know if there's anything going on. I always appreciate their feedback because sometimes it gets overwhelming to present and answer questions at the same time. So, just let us know if there's anything weird or if you have any questions as I continue here. So Again, so reports are are more colorful, and exports are basically Excel spreadsheets that you can manipulate the data and toggle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'll go into a brief overview as to what each one does. So the first report there, the site assessment completion report, it shows you. I'm not going to show it because it's not one of the more important ones that I really want to focus on, but it shows you students that have finished an assessment. It shows you students that are queued for an assessment but have not begun. It shows you students that have not finished, and those students that don't have any assessment queued at all. So if you want to get an overview of your entire site and to who's doing what and who hasn't finished, etc., this is a great place to come. And the assessment completion export is very similar to that. So the next step I want to go over is the data portal. So you can reach the data portal in 3 different ways. You can click on your reporting tab up top, click on data portal. You can click on historical reports, or you can click on historical reports export, and you will get to the same place with all 3 of them. Just for the sake of this training, I'm going to go ahead and click on the data portal option up here. The data portal is kind of a warehouse of data. It's where we store data over time. So it's a great place to access, excellent reports. So if you have a program for, a number of years, which many of our sites do, it's a great report. It's a great place to come to access that. So the data portal is very similar. So I just want to point out the fact that when you do click on the data portal, you still have your regular Let's Go Learn account on the tab previous, and it opens up a new tab for you to be able to access that data portal. So here under this page, you have, again, it's organized under a series of tabs. You have the home tab, meaning the home tab for the data portal. You have reports, again, those colorful reports. Exports, the Excel spreadsheets. And then you have beta. I'm going to focus today on reports and exports. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and click on reports. When you click on reports, you get this little toggle screen that gives you some selections. So I'm just going to go ahead over what each report does. So your performance band report is a colorful report that helps you determine growth. And it can be determined from beginning to the end of the year. It can be determined from beginning to the middle of the year. You can pretty much just show growth over time. You can do it year over year, etc. And you can also, if you want to run like a baseline report for your beginning of the year scores or end of the year scores, you can run a baseline report for a particular test, which we'll get into in a minute. But average scores report, it shows the average scores for a particular grade within 2 different testing periods. It's used to show growth within a grade level, so it's your average scores there. Your system usage report shows all students tested. It shows students that have completed 1 assessment and students that have completed 2 or more assessments. So just who's using the system and how often are they using it, pretty much. The assessment profile report shows all of the DORA profiles for either the entire site or for a particular grade. So those are your A through H profiles if you're familiar with DORA. And then the last report is the demonstrated gains report. This report is for EDGE users. If you're using our EDGE instructional series, it's used to help you determine student improvement as compared to time spent on EDGE. So depending on the time spent on EDGE, how have they improved? So from these reports, I'm going to go ahead and click on performance bands because this is one of the most important ones that I love to showcase, since it's one of the most widely used within our administrative community. So again, the performance band measures improvement over time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on DORA. What you have here is the ability to input 2 different test ranges. You can select, for example, if you want to run a beginning of the year to the end of the year, you would select the starting date. Maybe my beginning of the year testing ended in October, so I can go ahead and put in an October date, or maybe October 30th. And if you were at the end of the year already, you would go ahead and put in those dates. So for example, maybe they started in May, and then the ending report would be the end of June. Just want to remind you that as you're entering dates into our system, that you remain consistent in the pattern. It's very sensitive, so make sure that you're entering 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the date, and 4 digits for the year. You can choose to select students that are in all testing windows. So basically, all of the same students that took the assessment the first time will be reflected the second time. And then you can choose your grade ranges. So this is a report that you can run for an entire site just to see, how they did as a whole, but understanding how different the skills are in K to 2 as opposed to 3 to 5, and then 6 through 8 and 9 through 12. You have that ability to toggle that here. So one popular option is to run this report in clusters. So for example, again, maybe kindergarten to 2nd grade might be the way that you run that report, or maybe you want to toggle it to 3rd through 5th grade. Or maybe you want to run this just by particular grade level. So maybe you just want to do it for all 3rd grades. So I would just click on 3rd grade here and 3rd grade here. So you can go ahead and run it that way. And then I want to just show you that there are 2 different ways to run this report. You have the absolute mode and you have relative mode. Absolute mode is skills-based. So it's the absolute amount of growth that they've demonstrated from the first assessment range to the second, as opposed to relative. Relative is how much they improved relative to the grade that they're in. So if they're scoring at a 2nd grade level and they're in 4th grade, it's going to be you're going to see a little bit more red in that report. You're going to see a little bit lower growth. So just keep that in mind. Absolute will show you better gain because it's actually measuring the true growth as opposed to relative to the grade that they're in. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. And just for the sake of time, I ran some of these reports because this is an admin site and the data is a little bit sticky. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the performance bands report. So this is the performance bands report that I ran from kindergarten through 8th grade. As you can see up here, so it says a grade range 0 to 7.99. So this is K through end of 7th grade. It gives you the first assessment window. So this was done for last year from September to November, and then mid-year. So this is beginning to mid-year. So the beginning testing window was in January up to April. It shows you the amount of students that took it. So as you can see here, this is something that I would red flag if I was an administrator, would be, well, the first time around 506 students took it, and the second time around only 162 students took it. So that would kind of, raise that red flag of, well, maybe not everybody's done testing. Then let me find out who's still not finished. So what we have here is 2 different columns for each testing window. You have high frequency words for the first time that students took the test, and then high frequency words for the second time. And it tells you the percentage. So the percentage in red, it means students that are still emergent. Any numbers in blue are students that are proficient. And then anything in green is above grade level. So performing above grade level. So you have high frequency words, word recognition, phonics, vocabulary, spelling, and comprehension. So it gives you the percentage of growth. So just keep in mind that this is the report where you want to see the first time you want to see more red and the second time less. So you would really want to see the red go down and the blue and the green increase. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is a very skewed data since there's 501 and only 160 in the second. So back to the data portal. Let's say I want to just show a baseline set of scores. So I just want to show how they did for this fall only, just to get a starting range. I can just click on single date range here, and it only opens up, it gets rid of that second assessment window and only gives you the first one. So you can choose to do it only for the beginning. And this is a great report that will help you actually set targets for the year. So if you see that, there's across the board, vocabulary is an issue at your site, then this is a great report that can help you set the percentage of growth that you want to see by the end of the year for your site. So you can click that single date range. You would click again, you can select a single grade, or you can select different clusters, so K to 2, or you can select 3 to 5, etc. And for those older kids that are no longer decoding, you can choose to exclude high frequency words, phonics, and spelling. So those students that you're really just focusing more on vocabulary and comprehension, then you can select to exclude these. So back to my reports tab. Again, you have all of these others. I'm not going to go too much into them, but I'm going to show you what I want to show you now is for Atom. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Atom performance band. The Atom is a little bit different than the Dora since we're measuring apples and oranges. So again, you can enter a beginning assessment range. So we can let's pretend that we're looking for last year. We'll use 2015 ending. Let's say that they finished in November 1st, and then second assessment range is for the end of the year. So let's look at April, May 2016, all the way to the end of June. Again, you can include students that were only in both testing windows so that, in case anybody transferred out, etc. And then we have an option to run a fourth band breakout for 1 or more years. So what we were finding is that, students, especially students, and especially after the Common Core started, is that they were just falling so behind grade level that there was just so much red in the report. So what we did was added a fourth band so that you can see that they're approaching proficiency as opposed to just, flat out red emergent. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. But again, you have the ability to toggle the grade level. So if you just want to run for first grade, what that looks like, if you want to run, just your high school kids. So actually this is an Atom. So Atom only goes up to 7th and 8th. So you can run maybe 6th through 8th to see how that looks, etc. You click on begin, and I pulled one of those up here. So I'm sorry. Here we go. So this is the Atom Performance Bands report. So this report I ran last year for beginning of the year to mid-year. Again, the numbers are skewed because not everybody had finished testing at that particular site. But you have your total score, which is your weighted score average of all the different of all the 5 main domains. And then the second time they assess, so numbers and operations, second time numbers and operations, etc. So we added again that yellow band that shows the approach and proficient. So although you have green and blue, you also have a yellow, which means that they're almost there. They're still below grade level, but they're almost there. So you have that option to click that. I'll show you again where that is. That fourth grade band is, that fourth band breakout is here. Otherwise, you will just get 3 colors, just like the Dora, the red, yellow, and the red, the blue, and the green. So back to I see that somebody has a question. This webinar will definitely be available at a later date, Sandra. So it will be available. I'm sure that we'll add more to our webinar training calendar, so do check back. But we do have your info, so we can send you either this version of I don't know if we recorded it actually, but we'll send you a version of it, or we'll let you know when there's another live one. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Sandra. So back to the dashboard up here, I'm going to just go ahead and click on exports. Again, reminding you that exports are that very Excel spreadsheet. That's all I have to say. It's just that very black and white Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the toggle bar, and you see that you have raw scores report. The raw scores report is a great spreadsheet of your site. It will give you all student information. It will give you the scores for all assessments within that range. And it's a great assessment to use for establishing baseline scores. It's a great report to use as, to keep in your records. And it's also a great report to use to be able to toggle, since it is an Excel spreadsheet. You can toggle, different columns, high to low, low to high, so you can really determine where the need is greatest amongst your students. So then you have your pre and post gains export. So pre and post gains export provides you another Excel spreadsheet, and it focuses on student gains. So this is one of those exports where you actually need, you're going to have students assess more than once. So it gives you, yeah, we'll get into that as I get into a little bit more, but basically demonstrating gains for that particular group of students. And then last, you have your instructional usage report, and this is very similar to site assessment completion report, except this one just basically gives you information if you have used Edge. So if you have access to Edge, which is our instructional component, it'll tell you the total number of activities that were completed, the time on task in hours and minutes, total average score of their lessons, and then the breakdown of the type of Edge lesson they were on, whether it was an ELA Edge or Math Edge, etc. And it's used. The best way to use this report is to get an overview of your site and to make sure that your students are on target with our recommended time on task. So out of these exports, I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you this raw scores export. I'm going to go ahead and click on Dora first. You can enter a start date again, and you can start it from today. I'm sorry, from September 1st of this year to today. And you could choose again your grade range. So if you want to see your entire site, if you're a K-7 school or a K-8 school, then you would start at kindergarten and toggle all the way to 8th grade. If you just want to see one grade level at a time, you can just start with 1st grade and print that out by itself. You can do grade level clusters, so you can do 2nd through 5th or 2nd and 3rd. It'll just basically give you all those students within that range. And then you have your choice of file type. So CSV versus Excel versus tab delimited. I'll just let you know that Excel will let you save things a little bit differently if you do toggle those columns. So my recommended use is Excel, but it's entirely up to your preference. You can choose to include the teacher login by clicking on this box here. Otherwise, it'll just give you the list of students and you won't know who they really belong to other than their grade level. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a sample of that from my pre-downloaded reports. Here's Dora raw scores. So again, it's just a basic Excel spreadsheet. So I had already manipulated some information because this was real data. So I did away with their, all their private info, and I just basically took their last names out and changed their date of birth. So these are real students. So you see all of their student information. You see them alphabetized according to last name, their date of birth, the grade level they were in, their test date, their profile, their reading profile, and then the different scores that they received for each one of the different subtests for Dora. And you also see their weighted score, and you see their estimated grade level equivalencies for different reading programs such as guided reading, reading recovery, DRA, their Lexile, and their Lexile stretch. So just keep in mind that that's all available there. And I wanted to show you what that looks like for Adam, because Adam is a little bit different. So you enter again your start date and end date. So let's say little Johnny took an assessment twice within this window. You'll see his scores come up twice because it's basically picking up any assessments that were completed for that grade level within the 2 testing windows. So you do have the option to, again, toggle the grades that you want to see. And then it gives you either grade level score versus raw score. So, I don't know how familiar you are with the Adam, but raw score is basically the number of skills that are required in math. So if you want to see a grade level equivalent score, it's probably the most popular one, but their raw score is about how many skills that these students have mastered. So you can choose to see that there. Then you have the ability also to choose a strand. So if you just want to look at numbers and operations by itself versus all of them, or maybe just a summary, sometimes seeing it by all might be overwhelming for teachers, but you can choose how you might want to see that. So you can click on all and continue. And I will show you what that looks like. So again, it's that black and white Excel spreadsheet that you can manipulate the data, sort the data, etc. So student information, date of birth, grade level, the test date, and then the score for every single one of the subtests. So you have everything, numbers and operations, everything in measurement. Again, it's a very, very long report, a wide report, but you do have a total grade level at the end. So if you want to just take a look at that and use that as a measurement option, we can talk about how that's used at another date. So then the next report that I want to show you, the next export that I want to show you is the pre and post gains export. So again, the pre and post gains export will pull out the beginning, the first test date within the range that we put in here, the date range, and then the last assessment. So this is a great one to do at the end of the year or mid-year, where you know that the students have assessed definitely more than once. So for the sake of just saying it, we'll pretend that this was last year, and we're going to start it from last September up to last June. And you can choose again, how you want to show this report. You might want to just, if you're targeting instruction at the 5th grade, then maybe you just want to just show only the 5th grade. If you want to just run the entire site and you're a K-5 site, then you can just run it from kindergarten to 5th grade, etc. You can choose your options there. And then you have your file type here again, if it's CSV versus Excel or versus tab delimited, you can choose that. You can click on continue. I'll show you what that looks like. So Dora is here. So I'm going to go ahead and open an Excel so that you see what you would actually get. So here's again the same student information. Now what we see here is the first, in this column, you see the first testing window within that range, and then the second testing window within that range. So this is the first time that they assessed within the range, and then the last. So even if they assessed a third time in the middle, it's not going to pick up the middle one. It's only going to pick up the first and the last. So then you have, the next columns have gain. So HF is high frequency words, and G is gain. So anything with a G at the end is basically the actual gain that the student achieved. So high frequency word gain, word recognition gain, phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, etc. And then weighted score gain. So, and then as you scroll to the right, you can see the first assessment range, what they scored, and as you continue to go to the right, the second time. So I want to focus on these zeros here really quick. So sometimes, as teachers, as educators, we're really like hard-grained to think that a 0 is bad. But in this Dora assessment, you have to keep in mind that some of the assessment subtests actually max out. So for example, high frequency words maxes out at 3.83. So chances are that although this child got a 0, it might mean that he had already maxed out at that part of the assessment the first time he took it or the second. So actually the first time that he took it. So we can scroll over. So 0, if I scroll over to the first time he assessed, he did score a 3.83. So a 0 may not necessarily be bad. You have to be cognizant of our assessment and how areas like high frequency words and phonics max out. So here you have phonics, he got a 4.83. So I'm sure that his gains for phonics was also a 0, and here we are. He did get a 0. So just keep that in mind. So anything positive, like a 1 or 1.33, those are positive gains. Anything with a minus means that they went down the second time they took the assessment. And again, 0, just use your expertise, on our assessment to determine whether or not it's a bad 0 versus a good 0. back to the data portal. I'll show you what that looks like for Atom. So Atom is very similar, but again, you can choose your strand. So you can either choose your summary for all of the different, for all the 5 domains, or you can just, sort between them if you want to just look at numbers and operations to see if there were any gains there, measurement, geometry, data, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. So it's set up similar to the Dora, where you have, let me open it with Excel. We have all student information, their date of birth, their grade, the first assessment that was taken within that window, and the second assessment that was taken within that window, the last assessment. And then again, you have your grade score. So that's your weighted average of all of the different domains, their gain. So you can see if they went up or down. So some students, you can see all the positive. This one's different than Dora. So, positive is actually very, very good. Minus means that they might have gone down a little bit. You can see some of them are not by much. 0 gains, etc. And then, the amount of gains that they gained per strand. So numbers and operations gains, measurement, data, geometry, algebra. And then it gets into the first assessment window and the last assessment window within that range here. So I'm going to go ahead, since we kind of went over all of the important reports that I feel are important and how they're really, really used. I'm going to go ahead and just hop back into our site, actual platform, and just remind you a little bit of what we went over, because I do want to leave a few minutes open for any questions. And if you have them as reviewing, please feel free to ask them in the chat. So, all of your helpful links on your home tab. You have your Professional Development Center. You have your virtual support tours with short videos. You have where you can go to request support if something is going on. You have your tip sheets if you like the 1 or 2 page printouts, how-to printouts. Then you have future webinars in this section here. Then up top at your dashboard, you have your site admin tab where you can go and manage your teachers and manage your students, add a user as far as a teacher is concerned, or, add or revoke permissions. And then you have your reporting. You have your site reporting, which basically gives you access to a site assessment completion report and assessment completion export. And then we have our data portal, which is where you have all of your colorful reports under reports. I showed you how to run performance bands. These are other ones that you can, play with, and as you have questions, please ask. And then exports. These are the, the Excel spreadsheets that you can, again, I showed you raw scores and I showed you pre and post gains export. If you have any, questions about the other ones, please feel free to ask. That concludes our webinar for this afternoon. I want to let you know that we do the best way to really maximize Let's Go Learn is to schedule your own custom professional development session with our webinar, so we can look at your own data and teach you how to best use that, or on-site professional development. But I want to let you know that we are grateful that you joined us today. There will be a short survey at the end when you log out, so please give us some feedback as to how we did today. We're going to leave the webinar open for a few minutes, so if you have questions, please ask them. We have some people here that are ready to answer them. But again, I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's really wonderful to see so many people on and eager to use their data for their sites.